Welcome to Peaceful Soul. Today, I want to share something you may have never considered. Your brain isn't weak or broken, it's simply overwhelmed by the non-stop noise of modern life. Every day we're bombarded by notifications, images, sounds, and work pressure, and without realizing it, we slowly lose control. After years of studying the brain, from dopamine to how different regions react under stress and joy, I've realized most of us aren't really living intentionally. Instead, we slip into autopilot, constantly reacting to the world instead of consciously choosing our path. In this video, we'll explore how to take back control of your mind, why distraction has such a strong grip on us, and most importantly, how to break free. I'll share not only proven science, but also real stories from everyday Americans who found their way out of overwhelm and back to balance. Imagine waking up and, instead of being pulled into your phone or endless tasks, you choose focus, peace, and a life that feels meaningful. That's not wishful thinking, it's a skill you can train. And together, we'll walk through the steps to get there. So grab a cup of coffee or tea, settle in, and let's begin this journey. What you hear today might just change the way you see yourself, and could become the turning point that helps you reclaim true freedom of mind. Let's start by looking at how the role of human learning has shifted in the digital age. Years ago, school was about doing homework, answering questions, passing exams, and eventually graduating. It was a one-way street. You absorbed, you followed instructions, and then you were graded. But now, things are completely different. Today, it's not just about learning to follow, it's about learning to analyze, to question, and most importantly, to navigate a massive ocean of information. Think about it. Whenever you want to do something, whether it's cooking a recipe or planning your finances, the first instinct is to grab your phone. Type into Google or ChatGPT, and wait for an answer. Convenient? Absolutely. But there's a cost. People are losing the habit of digging deeper, because answers are always at their fingertips. I'm reminded of Tyler, a 20-year-old college student in New York I once spoke with. In his classes, instead of just solving math problems, his professors emphasized evaluating which answers were reliable, which sources were credible, and how to challenge the information itself. For his generation, the role isn't just to do the work, it's to grade an entire flood of data that never stops pouring in. But with that shift comes new pressure. When everything is instantly available, our brains naturally lean toward the shortest path, the easy route, the instant reward, rather than exercising the muscle of independent thinking. Research shows that the modern brain is being rewired to prioritize immediate gratification. The result? We know more than ever before, but we understand less, and we're becoming less patient with uncertainty. This creates a paradox in American society. We hold the most powerful tools in human history, yet we feel more directionless than ever. A survey by Pew Research found that although young people have unprecedented access to information, their levels of anxiety, stress, and disconnection are higher than those of earlier generations. That's the hidden cost of the digital age. When every answer is just a click away, we become more confused about what those answers actually mean. And that's why learning how to regain control of the brain has never been more urgent. Without it, we risk drifting endlessly in the current of data, letting technology dictate how we think instead of the other way around. This isn't just Tyler's challenge or the struggle of the younger generation, it's a lesson for all of us, parents, teachers, and anyone trying to adapt to the whirlwind changes of today's workplace. Be honest with yourself. When was the last time you sat still without reaching for your phone? Most of us have the reflex of unlocking our screens every few minutes, checking notifications, watching a quick video, or waiting for the next message. It seems harmless, but behind it lies a powerful biological mechanism. Every time you swipe and see something new, your brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter that fuels excitement and anticipation. The problem is, when rewards come too quickly and too often, the brain rewires itself. It starts to crave the next hit, just like a gambler standing in front of a slot machine. Dr. Anna Lemke at Stanford has shown that frequent use of smartphones and social media can trigger neural changes similar to those seen in substance addiction. That may sound frightening, but it explains why putting the phone down feels almost impossible. I once spoke with Laura, a high school teacher in Chicago. She admitted she spent nearly 3 hours every night scrolling through TikTok. Even though she knew it wrecked her sleep and mood, each time she tried to set the phone aside, she felt restless, anxious, afraid she'd miss something. Her struggle isn't unique, it's exactly how dopamine rewires the brain. When the mind grows accustomed to fast rewards, activities that require patience, like reading, learning a new skill, or even having a deep conversation, begin to feel dull. The reward system gets hacked, making it harder to experience lasting, meaningful joy. Dopamine itself isn't the villain. It's what drives us to dream, to achieve, to pursue goals. But when it's constantly triggered by digital, fast food, we gradually lose the ability to savor real happiness. If you've noticed yourself becoming less focused and more impatient, that's not just bad luck, it's a sign your brain has been reprogrammed by the dopamine loop. In neuroscience, our brains are largely guided by two major networks, the default mode network and the executive network. When the default mode takes over, your mind wanders, you daydream, replay old memories, or worry about what's next. When the executive network is active, you're fully engaged, solving problems, making decisions, taking action. Ideally, these two states stay in balance. But in today's world, the scale tilts heavily toward the default. Picture this. You open your laptop to get work done. Within minutes, you're checking email, scrolling through Facebook, maybe watching a quick video. That's your brain slipping out of action mode and back into default. A Harvard study found that people spend nearly 47% of their waking hours with their minds wandering, and the catch is, this state is often linked to anxiety and dissatisfaction. I once spoke with Ethan, a software engineer in San Francisco. On paper, his life looked solid, stable job, great salary, but each evening, he felt strangely empty. After a full day of solving technical problems, his mind would spiral into vague thoughts, worries about the future, doubts about his direction. Ethan's experience is a classic example of someone stuck too long in default mode, disconnected from purposeful action. The cost isn't just feeling lost. In default mode, the brain often drifts toward regret, comparison, and endless questions like, what am I really doing with my life? On the other hand, completing even a small task, writing down a goal, replying to a single email, tidying up your room, releases dopamine, giving you a sense of progress and control. The key isn't to eliminate the default mode, it has value, especially for creativity and new ideas. The real challenge is learning how to restore balance. To live fully, you need to know when it's time to flip back into action mode. And sometimes, it all starts with the smallest possible step. These days, technology doesn't just serve our needs, it's engineered to hold our attention for as long as possible. Every app you open, from TikTok to Instagram to Facebook, runs on the same model, constant micro-stimuli that create a dopamine loop. The more you scroll, the more rewards you get, and bit by bit, your brain gets programmed not to stop. Sound familiar? You grab your phone just to reply to a quick text, but a few minutes later, you've been pulled into a chain of short videos, then news, then random posts. By the time you look up, 45 minutes are gone. That's not entirely your fault. These apps are deliberately designed that way. Every second you stay means more ad revenue. According to Nielsen, the average American now spends more than 11 hours a day in front of screens, phones, computers, TVs. The problem isn't only lost time. Our brains are more fragmented than ever. A UCLA study found that after a single interruption, it can take 23 minutes for the brain to fully refocus. I think back to Monica, a single mom in Texas, who once told me evenings were supposed to be for her son. But she kept getting sucked into her phone. I only meant to read the news for a few minutes, she said. Then I drift to Facebook. By the time I look up, my boy has already finished showing me his new drawing, and I missed it. The regret in her voice was undeniable. Technology wasn't just stealing her attention, it was stealing irreplaceable moments of her life. The truth is, technology itself isn't the villain. The issue is how we allow it to lead us. Our brains crave fast rewards, and technology constantly delivers those little candies of stimulation. The result? An endless cycle of distraction, Short bursts of excitement followed by long stretches of emptiness. Only by understanding this mechanism can you pause, set boundaries, and take back control. The human brain was designed to remember things the natural way: experience, process, then store in long-term memory. But with the explosion of technology, that process has shifted. These days, instead of holding on to information, we outsource it to our devices. Psychologists even have a name for it: the Google effect. We're more likely to remember how to find information than the information itself. Think back to childhood. You probably had every family member's phone number memorized. Today, many people can't even recall their spouse's or sibling's number because it's all stored in their contacts. Convenient, yes, but it also means our memory muscles aren't being exercised. And over time, they weaken. It's not just long-term memory that's affected. Short-term memory takes a hit too. Imagine you're reading an article. Then your phone buzzes. You check the message, go back to the article, and suddenly you have to reread from the beginning. The brain has to reload, like a computer that keeps getting interrupted. Research at Stanford has shown that heavy multitaskers, people constantly switching between apps and notifications, perform significantly worse at filtering and retaining information. Take Jason, a software engineer in California. He used to pride himself on his sharp recall at work, but after years of juggling hundreds of emails and pings each day, he noticed a shift. My brain feels like a browser with too many tabs open, always lagging. And I rely on Google for even the simplest details. Here's the deeper problem. When memory weakens, critical thinking weakens with it. Reasoning and analysis require us to hold information, compare it, and connect the dots. But if the brain is trained only to look up instead of think through, we're far more vulnerable to misinformation and shallow understanding. Technology isn't the enemy, but if we hand over too much of our memory to it, we risk losing one of the most essential human skills: independent thought. This is the wake-up call. It's time to find balance between using technology and preserving our mental strength. One of the most profound impacts of technology isn't just how we consume information, it's how it reshapes the way we see ourselves. Social media has become a kind of digital mirror, filled with carefully curated success stories and edited photos that make daily comparison almost inevitable. When you scroll past friends traveling, showing off a new home, or celebrating career milestones, your brain instantly flips on its social evaluation system and whispers, "Am I good enough?" Research shows this is far from harmless. A survey from the American Psychological Association found that spending too much time on social media is directly linked to higher rates of anxiety and depression, especially among young people. Each comparison releases cortisol, the stress hormone, feeding insecurity and self-doubt. I think of Lauren, a young woman from Chicago, who once told me that every time she opened Instagram, she saw friends hitting milestones she admired. Despite her own accomplishments, she constantly felt as if she was falling behind. Those endless comparisons didn't just drain her emotionally, they slowly eroded her confidence in her own worth. The dangerous part? What we see online is a polished highlight reel, heavy on success and light on failure. But our brains process it as reality, trapping us in a vicious cycle. The more we compare, the more inadequate we feel. The more inadequate we feel, the more we crave external validation, so we keep going back for another hit of social approval. And this doesn't just touch our emotions, it shapes our behavior. Many people post just to chase likes, and when the numbers don't meet expectations, disappointment sets in. A Harvard study found that getting a like on social media activates the same reward pathways in the brain as receiving a tangible reward. In other words, virtual validation is literally rewiring our emotions and decisions. So here's the real question. If we allow social media to define our self-worth, are we truly living for ourselves? Only by recognizing that these comparisons are incomplete and unfair can we step off the treadmill of validation and return to a sense of authenticity and peace of mind. Focus used to be one of humanity's greatest strengths, but in the digital age, it's eroding day by day. Our brains are constantly bombarded with notifications, emails, and social media, making it harder than ever to sustain attention. A study from Microsoft even found that the average human attention span has dropped to just 8 seconds, shorter than a goldfish's. It sounds funny, But it's actually a troubling sign. Picture this. You sit down to read a book. After a few pages, your phone buzzes. You check a text, skim an email, maybe glance at Facebook. By the time you return to the book, you've forgotten where you left off. Each interruption forces your brain to reboot, burning mental energy and gradually weakening your ability to focus deeply. What's more alarming is the decline of deep thinking. Computer scientist Cal Newport calls this deep work, the state of full immersion where we analyze, connect, and create without distraction. But in a world of constant digital pings, most of us rarely reach it. Instead, our brains adapt to shallow work, fast responses, quick reactions, but little real depth. Take Ethan, a law student in New York. He told me that he used to spend hours buried in casebooks, highlighting and taking notes. Now, just a few minutes in, his mind itches to check something else. Tasks that once took an hour now drag on for twice as long. Neuroscience backs this up. Frequent interruptions actually retrain the brain to favor shallow processing. The prefrontal cortex, the command center for focus and decision-making, fires less consistently. In other words, we're programming ourselves for distraction. The cost? Lower productivity, weaker reasoning, and higher stress. In the past, people could lose themselves for hours in reading, writing, or creative work. Today, many feel restless after only a few quiet minutes without a screen. That shift reveals something deeper. We're not just losing patience, we're losing the very foundation of intelligence and creativity. So what's the real cost of technology, and what toll does it take on our mental well-being? When the brain is constantly pulled in 1,000 directions, the impact goes far beyond lost productivity or weakened memory. The deeper price is psychological. Studies consistently show sharp rises in anxiety, stress, and depression alongside the explosion of smartphones and social media. Our minds were built to recharge in silence. Yet today they're trapped in an endless loop of stimulation. One study from the University of Pennsylvania found that cutting social media use down to just 30 minutes a day significantly reduced feelings of loneliness and depression. In other words, technology doesn't just steal our time, it quietly drains our spirit. Dopamine may spike with every notification, but it's shallow and fleeting, leaving behind emptiness and fatigue. Take Jessica, an office worker in Seattle. Each morning, the first thing she did was check email, then scroll through Instagram. Her phone buzzed nonstop throughout the day. At night, when she tried to sleep, her heart raced and her thoughts spun in circles. After months of this, she sank into chronic anxiety and eventually sought therapy. The scariest part, she said, was realizing too late that technology had been chipping away at my mental health one tiny piece at a time. Beyond anxiety, social media feeds another modern plague, the fear of missing out, FOMO. Humans crave connection, but digital connections rarely satisfy. The more we scroll, the lonelier we often feel. Physically, the consequences are real. Excess cortisol, the stress hormone, can disrupt sleep, weaken the immune system, and even raise heart disease risk. There's another hidden danger. Technology robs us of presence. You might sit at the dinner table with family, but your attention is captured by the glowing screen in your hand. Research from the University of Virginia found that even glancing at your phone during a conversation significantly lowers the quality of connection. The other person may not say it out loud, but they feel your absence. James, a father in California, once absent-mindedly checked his phone while playing with his daughter. One evening, she looked up at him and asked, "Daddy, do you love me more than your phone?" That innocent question hit him like a lightning bolt. He realized just how many irreplaceable moments he had let slip through his fingers. It's not just families. Friendships and romantic relationships are thinning out too. We've grown used to quick texts, emojis, and short calls, but we rarely make time for face-to-face conversations that truly matter. Connections feel faster, but shallower, and deep down, many of us still feel alone, even in a chat room full of friends. Real happiness comes from being fully present, looking into someone's eyes, truly listening, sharing a laugh. Technology often drags us into a half-digital existence, physically here, but mentally elsewhere. Only when we learn to put the phone down and lift our heads up can we restore the authenticity of human connection. Because at the end of the day, The true value of life isn't measured in likes, it's found in smiles, in presence, and in the people right beside us. When it comes to technology, many people believe they're the ones in control of their devices. But in reality, it's the devices quietly controlling us. Every ping, every familiar ding is carefully engineered to trigger an instant reaction in the brain. Harvard research shows that receiving a phone notification activates the very same brain region as an unexpected reward. That explains why dependency forms so easily. It's essentially a form of addiction. You can see it in the smallest habits. Some people can't fall asleep without checking every last message, while others grow restless if their phone isn't within arm's reach. The brain becomes so accustomed to fast stimulation that even a brief pause feels like withdrawal. This is the erosion of self-control, when behavior no longer comes from conscious choice, but from pre-programmed reflexes. Take Daniel, a college student in Boston. At first, he used his phone, just a little to relax. Over time, though, he realized he couldn't study if the device was anywhere near him. Every few minutes, his hand reached for it without him even noticing. If he left his phone in another room, he felt anxious, as if he had forgotten something vital. Only after seeing a therapist did Daniel recognize that he had slowly lost control of himself. The danger isn't just wasted time, it's weakened willpower. When the brain gets hooked on quick rewards from technology, it struggles with patience for long-term goals. A workout, a novel, a big project, all require persistence. But when the mind is trained to seek instant gratification, our internal motivation gets replaced by the tiny dopamine hits delivered through a glowing screen. On a larger scale, this loss of autonomy makes society easier to steer. If the behaviors of millions can be shifted with a single tweak to an algorithm, then we must ask, are we truly making our own choices? Or simply following scripts that technology has already written for us? The truth is, control only returns when we acknowledge our dependency and consciously set boundaries. Without that, technology will keep deciding for us what we do, how we think, and even how we feel about our own lives. Don't look away just yet, because up next, we're diving into the most important question of all. How do we take back control of our own brain? After seeing how technology has rewired our minds and reshaped our lives, it's natural to wonder, is it even possible to regain control? The answer is yes, but it requires awareness, patience, and intentional choices every single day. Here's the good news. Your brain isn't broken. It's simply responding exactly as it was designed to, inside an environment built to be addictive, which also means that if you change your environment and habits, you can help your brain recalibrate. One of the first steps is creating space for stillness. Just like muscles need recovery after a workout, your brain needs quiet to sort memories and restore energy. Studies show that as little as 15 minutes of daily mindfulness meditation can significantly improve focus and boost positive emotions. Take Rachel, a middle school teacher in Denver. For years, she lived in the chaos of buzzing notifications and endless emails. But once she started her simple morning ritual of 10 minutes of silence, within weeks she felt calmer, less anxious, and more focused throughout her day. Another key step is setting boundaries with technology. Small choices, like turning off notifications, keeping your phone out of the bedroom, or designating tech-free hours, can break the dopamine loop. Research from the University of California found that cutting just 25% of daily phone use reduced stress and increased life satisfaction. And perhaps most importantly, rediscover joy in real-world experiences, meaningful conversations with loved ones, exercising outdoors, or learning a new skill. These activities don't just trigger dopamine in a healthy way, they also release serotonin and oxytocin, the brain chemicals tied to true happiness and deep human connection. The path to reclaiming your mind isn't about one big leap, but about small, consistent steps. Putting your phone down at dinner, taking a short walk without headphones. Each tiny act is a brick in rebuilding the foundation of mental freedom. And soon, you'll realize something powerful. Control was never truly lost. It's been in your hands all along, just waiting for you to take it back. If the last part was about regaining control, then the next step is about cultivating healthy habits so your brain doesn't just recover, but actually thrives. Think of your brain as a garden. With the right care, It blossoms with intelligence and positive emotions, neglected. It gets overrun by the weeds of distraction and stress. One essential foundation is quality sleep. While you rest, your brain clears out neural waste, strengthens memory, and restores energy. People who sleep fewer than 6 hours a night face a 30% higher risk of cognitive decline compared to those who get a solid 7 to 8 hours. Sleep is nature's therapy for memory and focus. Next is physical movement. Just a 20-minute walk a day can boost creativity by up to 60%. When you move, your brain releases endorphins and BDNF, nutrients for brain cells that sharpen memory and focus. Marcus, an engineer in Texas, used to feel mentally drained after work. But once he committed to regular running, he found himself solving problems faster and with more clarity. Nutrition also plays a major role in mental performance. Foods rich in omega-3s, like salmon, walnuts, and avocados, strengthen neural connections, while refined sugar and fast food weaken memory and focus. Even a simple shift, more greens, less soda, can make a noticeable difference. Equally important is practicing regular, digital detox. Just one evening without social media, spent reading or having a conversation, can dramatically reduce stress. And just as crucial, lifelong learning. Picking up a new language, an instrument, or joining thoughtful discussions builds new neural pathways, keeping the brain flexible and youthful. In the digital era, the key isn't abandoning technology, it's balance. Tech offers learning, creativity, and connection, but when it takes over, it becomes a burden. A study from Oxford University found that people who limited recreational screen time to 2 to 3 hours a day reported being significantly happier than those spending more than 6 hours online. For instance, Natalie, a marketing professional in New York, used to be glued to her phone, even checking notifications during dinner. But once she set a "no phone at the table" rule. Within weeks she noticed meals with family became warm, lively, and full of laughter again. The smart approach is to make technology your tool, not your master. Use apps that remind you to take breaks. Choose podcasts that enrich you instead of mindless scrolling. Let technology fuel your growth, not just entertainment. And don't forget to reconnect with nature, just 20 minutes outdoors. Without your phone, can lower stress hormones and lift your mood. When technology serves you instead of controls you. When real life brings connection and meaning, that's true balance. We've traveled a long road together, from understanding how dopamine reshapes the brain, to the effects of technology on memory, focus, relationships, and mental health. More importantly, we've explored the path to regaining control, building healthy habits, balancing the digital world with real life, and nurturing presence and mindfulness in every moment. Your brain is not the enemy, it's your companion. It reflects what you feed it, distraction or calm, pressure or balance, and you are the one who decides which seeds will take root. You don't need to change everything overnight. Start small. Walk a few extra minutes. Get enough sleep. Put your phone down at dinner. Or simply take a few deep breaths. These tiny, repeated choices build a lifestyle where you lead your mind, instead of being swept away by it. If you found this helpful, try practicing at least one of these habits today. Share this video with someone you care about. They might need a reminder that they deserve peace of mind too. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to stay connected with Peaceful Soul on this journey into mental well-being. Before you leave, ask yourself, have I truly been present today? That answer might be the starting point of a better version of yourself.